Hi, my name's Linda Lykovic, and I'd like to tell you about quilts. I've always had a warm place in my heart for quilts, but it wasn't until I started quilting that I wanted to know more about the history of quilts. What I learned really opened my eyes, and I'd like to share some of it with you. When you think of a quilt, do you picture your mother bending over you, tucking you in? Or perhaps, did you know that quilts were used as signposts for escaping slaves? Did you know they were used as protection against arrows? If you have a traditional family, you perhaps have a quilt that has signatures that record the history of the people who were in your family. It's my hope that by the end of my speech, you will have a better understanding of quilts. Quilts are a brief glimpse into our past. Depending upon the quilt and our understanding of the rich and varied history of quilts, a quilt can be a bridge that connects the past to the present. Based on my research of quilts and quilt patterns, I would like to present information that shows a variety of uses through history. During the minutes that follow, I'd like to tell you how quilts have played a part in history as clothing, protection, signposts, and as a record of our history. Susan Roach on the Louisiana Folklife website tells about how quilted clothing was used in China, where it was worn for warmth as well as protection in battle. She goes on to talk about a cloak on a carved ivory figure of an Egyptian king from the first dynasty of 3400 BC. There's a diamond pattern on this cloak, and many have interpreted that diamond to be a quilt. During the 17th century, making decorative petticoats and other quilted clothing was a popular folk art. The dresses were made at that time so that you could see the quilted petticoat around the front of the skirt. It wasn't hidden. According to Susan Roach, applique designs have been reported from the West African tribes of the Fan of Benin, the Yu, Fani, and Ashanti of Ghana since the 17th century. Now, applique is the sewn placement of a piece of fabric on top of another piece of fabric. Quilted clothing was also worn by soldiers as part of their armor. Judy Ann Brenneman, on the history of quilts, talks about how quilted garments were worn by victorious Muslim warriors as part of their armor. That style was adopted by medieval European soldiers, and the quilted garments and armor started to appear as early as the 14th century. Much of it was made by the armorers' guilds in Italy. Quilts were also used as signposts to help point the way for escaping slaves so that they could find freedom on the Underground Railroad. Because teaching a slave to read and write was illegal, the historians believe that many slaves developed a code using quilt blocks to point a direction or give clues or messages. It was common to see quilts hanging on fences. Nobody thought anything about it. The Owen Sound Black History website talks about some of these blocks, and I'll share some with you. This is the shoe fly. This was a symbol that identified a person who could guide and possibly help them escape. This is the North Star. The North Star had two messages. One was to prepare to escape, and the other was to follow the North Star to freedom in Canada. This is the Drunkard's Path. The Drunkard's Path was a warning to escaping slaves to take a circuitous route so that they could avoid pursuing hunters and their hounds. Donna Tuttle of America's Quilting History talks about how pioneer women used quilts in their journey to the West. They used them to drape over wagons for protection against arrows, protection against the choking dust from the wagon wheels. They were also used to wrap the body of loved ones who didn't make it on the journey. Quilts have been used to record history, according to Judy Ann Brenneman. Civil War quilts were made to memorialize male members of families who died. Sometimes quilted pieces of their clothing was used in these quilts. Quilts have, throughout history, proven to be valuable articles of clothing, protection not only against the elements, comforters of the heart, but also as records of history, as in the memorial quilts and family album quilts. Quilts are more than just a warm blanket. I hope you see that quilts are a woven tapestry with the history of each and every one of us. Quilts are bridges that connect the hopes, fears, and loves of those in the past with those in the present. Whether you have owned a quilt, or maybe you've just admired one, I hope that you see that it is truly a bridge to the past. Thank you.